Hi, so in today's session we're going to be making a cherry and almond financier. Financier is from the financial district of Paris. Very different style cake to what a lot of you will be used to making, different technique. Usually made with brown butter and just egg white rather than whole egg. So here first of all I've got my butter. What I'm going to do, put that on the stove, I'm going to boil that up. What's going to happen is it's going to start to make a noise, a bit like when you've got hot fat and then you've got liquid in there, because that's exactly what it is. And what we'll do is it will fizz and it will make noise, and then slowly as that water evaporates and the milk solids that are in there will start to brown, and then it will get go a brown colour and it will have a nutty flavour. Okay, so that's what we call brown butter. I'm then going to pour that off and leave the solids behind in the pan, but pour the butter off, and then I'm going to use that nutty butter into my cake. Other than that, I've then got some egg white I'm going to whisk up till frothy. I've then got some tinned cherries, and I've got some chocolate to put through the cake, and then icing sugar, a small amount of flour and ground almonds. So it's got a very similar flavour to a frangipane, but it's just slightly more dense. So after a couple of minutes, my milk solids have started to brown. I can smell it. It's got a nice nutty smell. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pour that butter off. What I've got left is the brown milk solids in the bottom, and you can see on the camera. So, I'm just going to allow that to cool for a couple of minutes, and then we can finish making the cake. So, I've allowed my butter to cool. There, as you can see, it's nice and brown. There is a little bit of solids at the bottom, but as I pull that off, now it's rested, I'll let that. I'll leave that behind in the jug. Now that's settled. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whisk up my egg whites until they're frothy. So my egg whites are nice and frothy. What I'm going to do, just pour just down, trickle it on the side of the bowl. Add that butter, try not to get the milk solids in there. I'm going to just sieve through my flour and icing sugar. Really important that you sieve this through. This is about getting air into this cake. As you can see from this technique, yes, we're getting air into the egg white, but a lot of that is going to be knocked out. One, because we're adding butter to the egg white, and as we know that meringue, any kind of egg white or meringue that's whisked up, as soon as you add fat, it will start to go down and deflate. But other than that, we're not really getting air into this cake. That's what I'm going to do by sieving the flour and icing sugar. One, there's no lumps, so you won't have to overwork the mix, and the other that putting a little bit of air into that mix. So sieve that in. I'm just going to then add my almonds as well, because it's nearly all mixed. So quite a simple thing to put together. What I'm going to do, the last part of this, I'm just going to fold through. Make sure I get everything really well mixed around the edges of the bowl. So there's my mix done. All I'm going to do now is add cherries, and what I've done is I've also put in there some chocolate as well. This cake, this particular recipe isn't very sweet. So because of that, just the chocolate and the cherries will give it that little bit more sweetness. So just going to just gently fold those through just till they mix through. Otherwise the cherries are going to just leak out all of their juices everywhere. And now what I'm going to do is just share that mixture between the moulds. So the recipe, if you want the recipe, just email me. I can give you the recipe. The recipe will say between 160 and 180 degrees. I'm going to cook these at 160 because the combi oven is quite powerful. I don't want this to go too dark. For between 18 and 20 minutes will be sufficient. Last bit in there. There we have it. Now I'm just going to sprinkle some of these on top, these sliced almonds. Just give a nice finish. And once these are baked, I'll take them out of the oven, leave them to cool in the mould for about 5 minutes, and then I'll put them onto a cooling rack. And then they can be dusted by some sugar to finish. But between 18 and 20 minutes, 160 degrees, 180 depending on the power of your oven. So here I've got my financiers. They've risen up through the middle. They haven't risen a huge amount, you know, like I say, they've got no raising agent. There's very little process to put lots of air in. Obviously we whisk the egg white and we sieve the flour, but a lot of that air is knocked out through the mixing process. So it'll be a slightly dense cake. Sometimes I make these in little bars or ovals, and they're fantastic for then dicing up and using, say, on the top. If you had a nice panna cotta in a glass and you wanted some other textures in that dish, some diced up financier in there, it gives that nice bit of chew. These are lovely when they're fresh and warm, delicious. When they go cold, they're slightly denser, so again they give that bit more chewiness to as a texture to a dessert. So just going to allow them to cool for 5 minutes onto here to then finish cooling, and I'll give them a nice dusting of icing sugar.